Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Glasgow Motorway Archive podcast with Stuart Baird and John Hassall. Hi John, how are you?
I'm not too bad, Stuart. In fact, I'm great.
Good. It's great to see you again here for another recording of this wonderful podcast of ours.
Yes.
And I know this month we're going to be talking about something that was quite recent in your life.
Quite. Yes, indeed. Well, I'll just say it. I'm going to be talking about the North Coast 500 because this is something I done back in the beginning of October.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I started this, I was like, I need to do a podcast about this.
Yeah.
And I came charging back down the road and told you this, and you'll say, all right, cool your jets.
Mm-hmm,
We'll get it out there
yeah.
after we do Kincardine.
Yeah,
So-
well, fortunately I've done it as well a long time ago, but yeah, something I remember quite well, and it is quite a good thing to talk about, so
Yeah.
I'm sure people will be interested in it.
The thing is, you've got the whole. I mean, you have done it, or certainly components of it,
Yeah.
before it was called the North Coast 500.
Yes.
So you were like trend-setting.
I-
So you were like the hipster of it, so
Yeah,
to speak.
I mean, most people do it for the scenery and
Yes.
for the hills and for the views. I did it for the civil engineering because I was aware
course.
that there were a number of projects had been built up there,
Mhm.
road bridges and stuff that I wanted to see. So I actually primarily went to see some of the bridges and some of the roads up there
Mhm.
a few years ago. So yeah, it'll be interesting to get your take on it.
No, that's a kind of the angle I would expect, and the reasons I would expect you to take to go on such a sojourn.
Yeah.
My reason's a little bit different. Of course, that's a benefit to see these things, but it was because of the whole pandemic and staycations.
Yeah.
You've got to have something to do that's within this country. And in fairness, while it's not exactly on our doorstep, it's in Scotland.
Yeah, that sounds good, John. Before we move on to that, I just wanted to say thanks to a couple of people who got in touch after the Kincardine Bridge 85th podcast, which went down very well, incidentally. Seems to be quite well received. I'm glad people enjoyed it. And the new webpage that we put up as well is doing quite well. Particular thanks to James Perry, who got in touch about the Castle Carey Swing Bridge that we mentioned. James actually had a photo of it before it was removed. It turns out the old A80 used to cross the canal at Castle Carey at that location. And there was a swing bridge there that was removed when the canal was reopened in the early 2000s, or around about 2000.
Okay.
So he sent us a photograph as well from his personal collection. So James, thank you very much for that. Really appreciated that. And thanks as well to a couple other people who got in touch, not just about the swing bridges, but also about the bridge itself and the opening and the memories of it. So thank you. We really appreciate that. Anyway, John, history of the North Coast 500.
Yes. Okay. Well, I'll start by saying that the North Coast 500 is actually, well, it's named 500 because it's close to 500 miles, but it's actually 516 miles
All right.
that go round the north, the whole kind of north coast of Scotland. So that's kind of going round Inverness all the way to John O'Groats, right around the top of Caithness, through to Sutherland, and down via Ullapool and all these other places, and back round. I think saying North Coast 500 is a little bit more catchy than North Coast 516.
Yeah.
So while these roads have always, well, I'll say they've always been there, but they've been there obviously quite a while, the North Coast 500 as a thing didn't actually come into being until March kind of 2015.
Right, okay, so that label is quite a recent thing.
It is, and you can certainly tell by the brown signs that go along the route directly, they're all quite new.
Right.
So when you were going around this, it wasn't called North Coast 500.
No.
So this came about, like I said, in 2015 by the Tourism Project Board of the North Highland Initiative. It's basically their attempt to kind of join all the tourism aspects of this route together into something. And since certainly what people have told me and what I've seen is this route has become a lot busier since they've done this. Okay,
Basically started advertising
Yeah,
it much more widely.
I mean, there's books on it.
Yeah.
That's what led me down this path. Is I ended up getting a book for Christmas of someone last Christmas, and it was like, oh, this is fantastic. And the maps, all the things to see. Now, like you, Stuart, I've been up before. I've been to John O'Groats. I've been all the way through to Inverness and all these places, and Ullapool and stuff, but never as a continuous route.
Yeah, yeah.
I've seen it as a challenge and stuff. Also, quite recently on Amazon, the Grand Tour, they done the parts of like the North Coast 500 and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So everybody knows about it. Everybody's talking about it, kind of thing like that. And like I said, with the staycation,
Yeah.
it's a perfect thing on the doorstep to do.
I was in a service area on the M6 in Staffordshire, and there was a leaflet advertising it, and you get the stands with all the leaflets, all the various touristy things.
Yeah. You always see them in services.
Yeah, and there was a North Coast 500 leaflet in one of those stands. So yeah, it's being advertised widely Yeah.
It's. I know we're a roads podcast. Okay, this might take on a bit of a tourism slant as well, because some people listening here, they've either done the North Coast 500, or they're thinking about doing it. And I'll give you my experience. I'll give you some tidbits along the way of certain things about the roads and stuff like that. But hopefully, if you're planning it, people might find this helpful. So feel free to chip in with anything. But I'll explain how we went about this. So we actually went as a group, and we decided, because it does require quite a bit of planning from the book that I've read and all the miles that you've got to do, is this isn't something you do just on a weekend. You could do it and squeeze it in maybe kind of over 2 or 3 days if you're purely just driving around it. But there are so many cool things to see that we decided to do it longer. So that's the first thing you want to do. I mean, we were 7 days or something like that. Is decide what you're going to do. Are you in it for the driving? Maybe like yourself, Stuart. You want to go and just drive on the roads and stuff like that. We're not really car enthusiasts.
No, we don't do the cars. We're more interested
But there
in the
are
infrastructure.
loads of people who are car enthusiasts that are really enticed by the North Coast 500 because of some of the roads and the technicality of the roads. Provide an excellent drive along with the views. So if you're a car kind of guy and you just want to go along and enjoy it, then you can look at potentially the shorter one. You're looking at, I would say, about 3 days.
Right, okay.
If you're a bit of a culture vulture like myself, you want to see all the castles, you want to see museums, you want to take little detours here and there and stuff like that, honestly, give yourself the week. And just take your time. There is a real mix of people that I came across on the North Coast 500. There's a lot of camper vans and caravans that you get, but there are plenty of people in cars that are a lot faster and more expensive than mine, bombing along, doing their thing. So you just have to be conscious of that, as well as tourists.
When I was there, when I did it, there were a lot of Dutch and German tourists.
Okay.
I imagine this year might have been slightly different.
It was. I mean, I avoided the English school holidays, and I avoided any Scottish half-term breaks, school holidays, anything like that, because I didn't want to get stuck behind things all the time. I know a lot of it is single track. And it can be particularly difficult, with passing places all the time in queues. I mean, I've heard horror stories of people getting, having to reverse almost like half a kilometre in some sections where the passing places are quite far apart to let things go by. So, no, I chose the first week in October to do it. This brings me on to the other thing with the North Coast 500 is the weather. My weather experience was hit and miss.
Okay.
And the weather can, in a way, make or break it, because it's all about views and stuff like that. Now, being in Scotland and at the the very north part of Scotland, you can understand, so you're a kind of weather guy, that it only comes with the territory.
Yes.
Like I said, a bit hit and miss. So you might want to look at doing this in the spring, if you can get a good week in April or May or something like that, or kind of weeks in autumn. In the kind of later autumn, you can do things, but I just would recommend avoiding it when it's busy, because from what I hear and read, it gets really busy on a lot of roads where there are no dual carriageways and easy ways to get past. It can become quite slow.
Well, this is the problem, of course, and this is a common feature in Scotland, isn't it? Tourist-related things in particular. We advertise these things and they're used in films and TV programmes and the likes.
That's right.
And these people come to see it, which is great, but we don't provide the necessary facilities for people to enjoy it,
Yes. So I'll talk a bit about that as I go through the route. So I'm going to describe that the way I go around the route and what some of the things I've seen, some of the roads I used, and where you said, Stuart, so many people are using these things. There is some evidence of improvements, mostly maintenance, in areas that are along the North Coast 500. So, yes. We started in Inverness, and if you imagine the North Coast 500, obviously it is a circuit. We went anti-clockwise. Right. So we took the Inverness going up the A9 that way and went up the A9, so A99, all the way to John O'Groats.
So you used the 3 bridges then, the 3 firths, the Kessock, the Cromarty and the Dornoch.
Yes, I did.
Okay. Duncan
and
will
they
be happy
are
about
fantastic. That. Although, technically speaking, the North Coast 500 has you dodging some of these.
Okay.
Because if you want to stick truly to the route, you end up going via Bewley.
All right, okay.
And going over that
So through the old road then?
It's through the old road beforehand and going around these sections in there.
Yeah.
I actually finished that bit on the way back, but no, on the North Coast 500 on the way up, I did actually take the fast and done it. No, just for anyone being pedantic here, I did cover every square inch of asphalt that is on the North Coast 500. I made sure I tied up the end when I was done.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I spent quite a few days in Dornoch, staying there. And kind of like one of these static kind of caravan things. Because there was quite a few of us, as myself and my girlfriend and her family.
Mm-hmm.
So we took the 3 cars. The best way we wanted to do this, because we all wanted to do different things as we've done things. And see around Dornoch, there's loads to do.
Mm-hmm.
Dornoch itself is very, very nice.
Yep.
You've also got Tain down the road.
Mm-hmm.
There's loads of things. It's not too far from Inverness. You're maybe about 45 minutes, 50 minutes or whatever that from Inverness, and the Black Isle as well.
Yeah.
So I just filled my days there,
Mm-hmm.
with going to see things. And there was Dunrobin Castle, which I think you absolutely have to go and see.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're not a castle sort of guy,
Yeah.
it's fantastic.
Okay.
I know it feels like I'm being paid here by the National Trust.
I mean, how did you find the A9? Did you get to use the new Berrydale Braes section?
Yes, so I'm thinking of the legs of my journey as I was going up here. So Berrydale Braes was open and complete as I went through. Now, if anybody is wondering what that is, it was a notorious kind of hairpin section of the A9. Duncan's not going to be happy I'm talking about his road here, but it's worth mentioning that. So that actually was a scheme very recent. There was a £9.6 million pound scheme they'd done there to not remove. Well, they removed the kind of the sharpness or the acute angles of the hairpins, and they also widened the road slightly. But it is still
much more gradual incline now.
It's still, I would say, it's impressive. For what it is. And
designed by our good friends at AECOM.
It was indeed. It was indeed, and it opened last year. I believe it was opened in August. The contractor was it was Dingwall based, RJ McLeod. Who done that?
A good scheme.
From what so very, very recent. I got to see the Berrydale Braes as I went up. Now, talking a bit about the A9 up there, my experience is see between Inverness and Tain. The road's very good. It's still quite a bit of traffic on it. That I found, but as you start to go north of that, with the exception of Berrydale Braes, the quality of it drops ever so slightly in areas, but it wasn't too bad. I've even seen some resurfacing works and things going on around there near, I can't remember where it was, near Helmsdale and stuff like that. So that brings me off to some other towns as you go further up. Helmsdale, lovely place to go and see. So I'll come back to another pitfall of the North Coast 500, and you need to be very, very aware of this if you're planning your days out with an itinerary of things you want to see. Things are closed on really random days up there. The Highland way of life is a different pace to us in here in the Central Belt, where we're quite used to everything's open. Of course, it's open 7 days a week, and it's open from 9 in the morning right the way through to 7 at night. No, they're not like that. And it's not the fact that things are closed on the weekends. Things are open on the weekends, but they may be shut. Or they shut on a Tuesday and a Wednesday, or they're not open on a Friday and a Saturday. These kind of things. So be very, very aware of that. If you're wanting to visit anything, even if Google tells you it's open, ring the place and ask. Because I was disappointed a couple of times going to places. Oh, Google says it's open, but it's not. Particularly this is the leg between Inverness and John O'Groats is where you have the highest concentration of these types of things that you want to go and see, because it's got more people than the more remote sections. So that's just a little warning I'd have. So speaking about the A9 and the roads, you only go on the A9 to a certain point, because the A9 becomes, well, you can stay on the A9 and go direct up to Thurso. So, or you can go onto the A99, which is the road that hugs the coast and goes all the way up, via Wick and all these places to get up to John O'Groats.
And that's a trunk road.
The A9, obviously going all the way to Thurso, is trunk. It actually, what was it Duncan said? It stops in Scrabster, which is just north of Thurso.
I think the A99 is a trunk road as well.
Do you think so? You'll have to check your lists on that.
Part of the Northeast Scotland unit, I believe. Northwest, sorry. Northwest,
Yeah, I was going to say.
Sorry, get mixed up there.
On those ones. No, I found when I came onto the A99, because that used to be named A9, and it was until 1996 they changed it. And they put the road through. but the quality dropped quite a bit when it went off A9 and became A99 up these sections. Some stunning views you have over the water, to be honest with you, but I always knew when I was driving up going this way that the best views were still to come.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
You know, I don't know what your opinion is of the kind of Caithness area, Stuart, and when you went up to John O'Groats, what did you think of that?
Well, you know what? I'm going to be honest. When I got to John O'Groats, it was one of the biggest disappointments of the entire trip.
100% agree with you.
And it was, you know what? It was a bit of a dump, actually, at that point, because the hotel was, at that point, that was 2009, the old hotel that was there was derelict, and it was rotting away, and it was very untidy. The streets were not particularly impressive. The services were poor.
The services were poor. We felt we couldn't even get a coffee.
And then I found out that the sign that you see in all the photographs that points in all the various directions with all the miles and things on it, you had to pay to get near it to get a photograph. I assumed that had been provided by the local authority as a feature, but no, it was being run for commercial gain. So
I'm glad to tell you, Stuart, that is no longer the case.
Right,
I managed to go up and get a picture there. I remember this day because the weather started to turn, which was annoying, to be honest with you. But I managed to go up there. The only thing I think it had all these gift shops there, which you can expect with these things, with the usual gift shop tourist trap prices. But John O'Groats, nothing special. I'd go there to tick it off, go to the toilet, which you need to pay for, and then be on your way, because if you're going this way around the North Coast 500, going up to John O'Groats first and then going across, the best is yet to come.
Yeah, see, you did it in the right direction. I did the opposite. I did the clockwise direction.
Yes, so you went like Inverness towards Ullapool.
So I got all the good stuff first, and then all the dross at the end.
Well, I always knew that this first leg, because like I said, when we planned this, just to go back to the planning of it, we went 7 days. I made up an Excel spreadsheet itinerary of what I wanted to do on all particular days, how long they take and stuff like that. I know it sounds like it's sucking the fun out of an otherwise a leisurely excursion, but you really need to be organised for the North Coast 500 if you plan on visiting things along the way. There is another cool thing that people should definitely visit when they're going up towards like John O'Groats and these places, and that would be the Castle Sinclair at Grinnigrow.
All right.
This is one of the most impressive ruins I've seen that's right up against the coast, and it's only like a short kind of 15-minute walk from the car park against the coast, and that's just north of Wick.
Right.
Really, really impressive. I'd recommend. So even if you're not a castle person, there's something quite magical about that, to be honest. So, no, that's it. So we travelled, like I said, spent a few days in Dornoch, and then my girlfriend's brother and his wife, they decided to travel back down on that day. They were only up for a couple of days. And then the rest of us continued northwards and stayed in Thurso. I didn't spend much time in Thurso. We just slept there, and then it was the time to start moving west. You know, along the route. Which our next kind of stops was like Smoo Cave and these things.
Did you pass Dunray?
No, I did not. Unfortunately, and quite tragically, there was a very serious accident coming up to that. Which we were at a point still where we were close enough to kind of civilization that there was a diversion we could go, because I remember coming that way and blue lights and everything there, and people coming saying there's been an accident, it looks bad, you need to go back. So unfortunately I didn't get to see Dunray. Right. You know, so no. I continued on now this section of the road here, it's still 2 lanes.
Yeah, and what number is this road?
This road here is the A836.
Right, okay.
So this is the road you start to take when you go across. Oh, I forgot to say, so many things that happened, you know, on this is I actually went to the truly most north point in this area called Dunnet Head. Have you been there?
No, I didn't, because the day that I was at John O'Groats, the weather was absolutely miserable. No. And I was just keen to get away.
Well, the weather was turning, but there was still visibility. Now, we're into Dunnet Head, which is the true most northerly point, and it's free. There's a lovely little road that takes you up there, and this is between John O'Groats and Thurso. Yeah. And that is the true most northerly point. And that place is like another planet. The whole place is a bird sanctuary. Yeah. But see, when you get there, they have a lighthouse, and you can actually see Orkney and stuff like that. So if you really, truly want to go to the most northern point, go to Dunnet Head. Yeah. There you go. John O'Groats doesn't count. So... No. Anyway, just going back to where I was, as you start to head west on the A836, you know, the destination, what we were doing this day was going from Thurso all the way to Ullapool. Right. That's a good 3 or 4 hour drive. Yeah. And plus, we wanted to stop in, you go through kind of like these places called Tongue, you know, these kind of funny names that some of these places have, and you end up going to Durness, which is where Smoot Cave is.
Yeah.
So when you're sitting along here, the views start to get better and better and better. I always found kind of with the area around Thursday, it's reasonably kind of flat and nondescript. But as you start to head over, you can see some fantastic scenery on your left, and you've got the coast on the right. So it becomes single track. Still pretty busy with things. So this is a slow drive. Really recommend Smoot Cave.
Yeah.
Have you heard of that? Have you seen it?
I've visited Smoot Cave.
Oh, you have? I didn't think you did.
No. When I was up there, I visited Smoot Cave. It was a lovely day. It was very sunny. There was my main memory of that is sitting in the car park after being in the cave, and this bus pulled in, this coach, and there must have been about 60 German tourists on it, and they all chipped in. And within 15 minutes, this entire lunch setup had been prepared on all these tables. There was like this whole buffet lunch had been prepared, and they were all in a line in a queue. All
That's not a massive car park either.
Yep, and they all lunched away and then packed it all away and then went into the cave. So that was my main memory of that. And I also, anybody who's ever asked me about that trip, I've always said that the biggest mistake I made was when coming out of Smoot Cave, I turned left rather than turning right and heading back down into.
Oh, so you were going the other way?
Because I was going the other way. So I had seen all the good stuff at the start.
Yeah.
And was left with a rather disappointing finish.
Yeah, I know. From a scenery perspective, definitely. This is where the North Coast 500 gets absolutely spellbinding in its views. So once out of that area, you start to then head south towards Ullapool and you get into Assynt. Do you know, we like our hill walking?
Yeah.
Don't we?
Yep.
Well, we did until I got old and fat.
Yeah.
But
I'm
looking at some of these hills in there, and we're looking at like Sullivan and these ones. You can see that is really prominent. And what the great thing is that there's distance between the hills and the peaks that you see. So it's just absolutely brilliant. You can get this lovely kind of take on. I mean, I know you've seen it. But for anyone there, this is where the best views are. Yeah. As you head towards like Ullapool and down towards like Elphin, which is where you actually, turn off the road, and Carski and these kind of places, it's absolutely brilliant. The road here is still single track, but as you get towards Carski, this was all, this goes back to 2 lane. Yeah. Now, my father told me he was up there when they were improving the road way back in the 60s. Yeah. And of course we get to Carski Bridge. Now, I have never experienced Carski Bridge consciously. Right. I might have been taken over it when I was very, very young, but at that stage I hadn't met you and had this fantastic appreciation for these things. But that bridge is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen.
Oh, it is.
And another thing is, it's much bigger than I thought it was. I thought it was this little thing. It's massive.
No, it's big. Any photo of it doesn't do it justice. It has to be seen in the flesh, and it's amazing. But it's got its own viewpoint.
It does. There's a lovely car park there. You can stop and have a look at it.
Yeah.
So just a little bit on Carski Bridge. You have visited it. This bridge here, I have some information. It was. Well, they started construction in 1982, and that was to replace an old ferry. Yeah. But my father had told me that this was, obviously, when he was there in the 60s, this was a notorious kind of slow and small ferry that could only take a few vehicles, so you were held up there. So this bridge was needed to go across. It finally opened in July 1984. It cost $4 million, and it was designed by Ovi Arup. Yeah. So there you go. Yeah, some familiar ones in there.
It's a nice one. I do have a couple of photos of it that I took when I was up there. I had read a bit about Kyle Skew in advance of my trip, which was one of the reasons I wanted to see it. But yeah, I agree. It's stunning. It's in a fantastic location and well worth a visit.
It is listed category A.
Yeah. So is that about an hour north of Ullapool? Am I right?
Yeah, you're about an hour north of Liverpool, I'd say, from there. Maybe
and still on the A36.
Yeah, it's still on that road, and it's I'd say maybe an hour and a half from Durness. So it's kind of a lovely point to stop and kind of get a little bit of a break and take in the bridge and stuff like that.
What did you think of the section of road just around Durness where you have to go all the way around a loch?
So this is back north and round. It was nice view wise.
Quite frustrating though when you can see the road where you're coming back to on the other side and you're thinking I've got a 30-mile drive or something to get there.
Well, this is it, because you are going back and forward all the time through all these peninsulas. Yeah. But that is the North Coast 500. Yeah. Don't look at it as as, oh, I'm trying to be the most efficient round here. If unless you're driving an electric car or something like that,
Oh, you can't do the North Coast 500 in an electric car.
Well, people have done it. I think you're going to need to tow a generator along with you, but
diesel
powered generator with you. So, but anyway, so the Carski was brilliant. You've mentioned about. It's funny that you mentioned that because I did think that. We're going all the way out there to go all the way back in again.
I know.
Now, talking about vehicles, talk about some of the vehicles we used for this. I've got a saloon, a diesel saloon.
Yeah.
And while that's a comfortable car to drive with these things, it's not particularly fast or anything like that. It done okay, to be honest with you. It gets kind of... The only reason why you might struggle in fuel, there are places to fill up with these things, but a small petrol engine car with a small tank might be a little bit tricky. You need to make sure that you've got enough fuel to get around. Although you probably, if you do enjoy your driving, something that's like a small hatchback might be ideal because you can... They're nice and easy to drive in the corners. One of the other vehicles we had was a small engine petrol SUV that really, really, really struggled.
Really?
To be honest with you, because it's such a small engine, SUV's heavy.
Yeah.
I don't want to slag off the particular car manufacturer here, to be honest with you, but it struggled on the hills, whereas my Passat was pulling fine on this, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So no, get something that's up for the challenge, but not massive.
I did it in a... What was I driving at the time? It would have been a Vauxhall Corsa, a 1.4 petrol.
Oh, right.
Vauxhall Corsa.
I never knew you had a Corsa.
Yeah, I had it very briefly because it was the worst car I ever had. But that's what I did it in, and I think it handled it okay.
You had a few wee clown cars when I met you. I
Yeah.
remember, so. No, that's fair enough. But with the car you got, but if you got the money and you want to do something quite cool, you can rent cars.
Yeah.
They're quite cool cars to go around and do it. Now, as for electric vehicles and stuff like that, if you've got a hybrid, you're okay, or a plug-in hybrid's fine. Yeah. But a full EV, I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't see electric car charging ports out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. I did see them at Thurso, I did see them at Ullapool and places like that, but I didn't really see them in between. Yeah. So if you do this, you might have to be on a high option Tesla.
Yeah. I would quite like to do it in a Lotus or something like that.
That would be brilliant.
70s, 80s vintage Lotus. That would be quite enjoyable.
That would be good.
Yeah. If anybody out there listening has one and would like to lend it to us,
the one from The Spy Who Loved Me. Yeah. Yeah. You usually get across the locks in that.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, so back to the route through Carski and then down to Ullapool. Again, the scenery was fantastic here, but there was another problem we came across: needing to go to the toilet. That's tricky. You've got to go. Should I be dehydrated but not need to pee?
Because you're getting old now.
I do. Like I have to. Yeah, I always find myself having to wake up early in the morning. I have to go to the loo kind of thing. But I did find it a bit of a problem. You know what I mean?
This is a common Scottish problem, and you and I discussed this. I went to Wales in July, North Wales, West Wales, South Wales, and the number of facilities was phenomenal.
Yes.
Public toilets, private toilets, every other mile on the road you could stop.
And it's
in
not
Highland
like
Scotland, you do not have that option.
No.
We are way behind.
In some of the time, like for example, they had free public toilets at Smoo Cave.
Yeah.
Which was great.
Yeah.
Didn't have them at Carski.
And that would be you to Liverpool, basically, after that.
Oh, yeah, you can go to the toilet anywhere.
Yeah.
Between those two.
Good.
Unless you want to walk half a mile in the heather so people don't see you or something like that. But no, I appreciate that people actually want to use a proper toilet.
It goes back to this problem that's been getting discussed a lot recently about bottles of yellow liquid at the side of British roads.
Oh, lorry driver lemonade.
Yeah. And it comes back to the same thing, doesn't it? A complete lack of suitable facilities for people. So we're encouraging these thousands of people to come and visit the North Coast 500 every year. But but you don't need to use the toilet as well, do you?
No.
Yeah.
So you just have to be careful. Don't drink too much.
So come on, Highland Council.
It'd be good to have somewhat. I think Carski would be an ideal place to maybe put some facilities and toilets and sign these as well. Yeah. So you can put toilets in so many miles.
Or even in some of the bigger villages on the route that encourage people in there. There's probably facilities in there, in terms of that might be shops or pubs or restaurants or cafes or whatever. Yeah. Put the facilities there, sign people in, drive up some trade there as well,
No, absolutely. To be honest with you, and go around these places.
John Cullen always said, it's been a while since we mentioned John. John always said that public toilets and facilities were, in his view, a great symbol of a civilised society.
You would say that. No, he's right.
He's absolutely right. And that is something we've lost in the last 20, 30 years in particular.
Okay. No, it is, but they cost money. I've been to a lot of places, and they some of them are okay. It's like they ask you to donate, and I do, because I know somebody has to pay for these things.
Oh, yeah,
or they're a pay gate, you know.
Yeah, so most of the ones in Wales that I used had a small charge of like 20 pence. You didn't need coins because they had the contactless.
Yes,
reader.
They had these in Ullapool, but the contactless didn't work.
Oh.
And people were just like, well, you know, getting through by standing close to the person in front of them, which wasn't ideal.
Yeah.
You know, the stupid contactless thing didn't work. So these things need checked.
Yeah.
So there is a rather interesting road that is part of the North Coast 500, which is just south of Carski. So this is where you take a deliberate detour between Carski and Ullapool.
Right.
According to the book, this is the B869, and this goes out onto like a kind of a peninsula area, and it goes past like Drumbeg and quite humorously a place called Ned as well, and Loch Inver, and goes down this and then goes back down towards the main road, which takes you to Ullapool. This is known as the Mad Wee Road, and this is challenging. It's got a lot of switchbacks on it, so you're going up over sometimes you're going over summits you can't even see in front of you. You've got to go very, very, very slow. Passing places are far apart. It even says not suitable for motorhomes on it.
Right. A question I was going to ask you: Did you go to Cape Wrath?
No, I didn't, because I think you need a boat to get to that, because although it's part of the mainland, the road on the other side is, I think you need to get a ferry across, and then you need to walk to get to it. So
I didn't either, but I just thought we'd check that. Okay.
No. That's it. But anyway, no, I survived what's called as the Mad Wee Road. Mad Wee Road, which is that B road that goes out towards Drumbeg and these kind of places. And do you know what? I've seen along there nowhere to pee, or use the facilities, sorry to be coarse, but there. That was more. Now the views were still pretty good. The weather was pretty appalling. That's more of a. You really want to test your driving skills and your patience. I would say. But anyway, we got out of that, went down to Ullapool, and we stayed in Ullapool. Now, I've been to Ullapool many, many times before, but when I was there, I seemed to notice, despite the timing of the year we were there, Ullapool was incredibly busy.
Right.
And a lot of the restaurants, the seafood restaurants, only had very basic menus.
Okay.
And couldn't accommodate us, so I ended up having to go for a pub meal, which was essentially kind of reheated food. So I was a little bit disappointed when I went to these places, and I think it's perhaps the fact that we went outside of season with these things, and they have their own supply issues and stuff like that, but no, everybody really friendly, but the weather was just appalling by this point.
Right.
So I was at this point in the trip, all the good weather was behind us. I was lucky that, you know, we had parts, especially when we were going through Ascent, where it was nice and clear and nice. So the next morning, I wake up, and there was a particular thing that I wanted to do. So this now, you go down further towards Gairloch.
Yes. Yeah.
Gairloch has a Pool U and these places. So the Pool U Gardens, which I've heard is very, very good if you're into that sort of stuff. Gairloch's also got this wonderful museum that you do have to pay to go in, but it's actually an old 1950s nuclear bunker.
Yeah.
It was actually used as a roads depot.
Right,
you know, how on brand for me in there. It's absolutely beautiful scenery around there. But the final and most kind of the big ticket thing I wanted to see was the Applecross Peninsula. Yeah. So when you go further down beyond Gairloch, you then have to kind of divert again out to the Applecross Peninsula. Again, kind of single track and quite slow in places, but we didn't notice many people about at this point. Maybe the weather had put people off that particular day. When we were out in that section, once you get to Applecross, there are some toilets. Yeah, you can stop there. But this is the road that loads of people speak about. It has become very famous because of the Grand Tour episode, and this is the Bíleach na Bar. I might be pronouncing that wrong, but basically it's kind of...
Well, we know what your Gaelic pronunciation is.
Yeah, it means Pass of the Cattle.
Okay.
And it's a very high, single-track road that goes over a mountain pass that gets you out of the Applecross Peninsula and back down really towards kind of the end of our route, going back towards Inverness on there. So this road is almost like, if you could imagine an Alps type road, an Alpen type road where you've got these downhill kind of hairpins and things like that. It is very, very technical, but I wouldn't say it was the most difficult thing. I think that the road that we done, that Mad Wee Road, was worse. However, the views on this road, I can imagine, are very good. Now, when I say can imagine, because it was absolutely smashing it down when we were doing it, and we were in the cloud, and we didn't really see too much. Okay. But I was quite lucky because of the weather being bad. No one was coming really the other way. I think I only encountered a couple of cars on it. And there's these really massive signs at the start of this mountain pass road that warn you, not for learner drivers. This road is impassable in winter. Yeah. Which always kind of instills in me this great foreboding about this thing, as I imagine this gritter just trying to go up it and going, no. Yeah. And there's a lovely area that, I imagine would be quite lovely on a nice day as a viewpoint, right at the top of the Belton Bar Road. So you can take. People have told me, and I've certainly seen pictures from up there, and it's absolutely brilliant. Yeah. So that's the road that they were on in the Grand Tour when I seen it, and I was like, I have to do that, and I've done it, and I've braved it. You do have to take these roads quite slow when you're doing things, although I'm quite used to growing up around some country roads. It wasn't like anything very, very difficult. It's just be in the right gear and take it slowly, and don't bomb along it regardless of what vehicle you're in.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, looking at these things, some people can do. But no, it was fine. So when we got down from Applecross, you go back towards like Loch Carron and these places, and then really it's just a road straight back to Inverness. And can I tell you this, see when you get back onto a traffic where you don't have passing places and stuff like that, it's wonderful. Yeah. After so much constant, concentration and having to pull in all the time and stuff like that, but you get back on the A890, and that takes you all the way back, and you end up joining the 835 up at not too far from like Contin and these kind of places like that, and at Garve. That's it. I remember going through Garve, but that road between Garve and where I just said, where you come back from Applecross, in sections, it's incredibly fast. It's got wonderful sight lines. It's very, very straight. If you need to get past things, you do. And you do need to get past things, and you can on that particular road. I found that it was quite anticlimactic in terms of the views and everything from what we'd just seen and done, and it was just, let's get back to Inverness, stay there, and then we can make the trip back down. But that was what it was. Speaking about overtaking, something I want to talk about a little bit. If you have people behind you and you're there enjoying the views and you're kind of dondering along, let folk go by you. I think that's quite important. If people want to enjoy it at a different pace and stuff like that, or if you even feel they're being dangerous in the tailgate, let them go be dangerous elsewhere. Pull over, let people pass.
Get out your way.
Yeah, and I done it quite a lot, and people were really appreciative of it. Yeah. However, you do need to pass and overtake things on certain sections, so make sure you know what your vehicle's capable of for doing things like that.
Of course, because there will be locals up there as well who want to go about the business.
Absolutely fly about, like that. If you're driving along at 60, you're a dawdler there. Nick would love this. Nick would absolutely love it up there, because the locals do fly along, and stuff like that. So let people by. Be very safe if you do have to overtake. Some things that I will say. Yeah. Know what your vehicle can do. So overall, I loved it from a cultural and a views point of view. Yeah. Driving in roads and stuff like that, I'm more of a urban dual carriageway, kind of guy when I come to things like my urban roads and stuff like that. So there's not a lot of that for me to see. But Carski Bridge and the bridges at Cromarty and Dornoch and Keswick were the highlights of the road stuff for me. So
when I did it, I did a bit that I don't think is part of the official North Coast 500, and that's the section between the Kyle of Loch Alsh and on the road up towards Allpool, the A835, so heading up towards Gaylord and the likes. And I went via Strome Ferry. And there's a wonderful bypass road up there, the Strome Ferry bypass, that was built in 1978. And it basically runs parallel to the railway line, very closely there. And there's this section, there's an avalanche shelter on that section of road where there's an unstable, rock face.
Is that the one with the railway line next to it, you say?
Yeah. Aye, so the railway and the road go through, and it's a single track road, and it runs alongside the loch. And up until that road was built, you had to use a ferry for vehicles to go across, and that was a really, really enjoyable section of road as well. So I would recommend that. So you cut off the 87 and come over the Skye Bridge.
So that's quite good. If somebody was linking Skye with the North Coast 500, that's a cool idea, actually. And then they could incorporate that road as well. I can't remember if I have driven on it. I've only been to Skye once, and that was when they still had a ferry. Yeah.
So I came out of Portree, done 87 across the bridge, Kyle Walsh for a break, and then it's the 8890, I believe, is the road.
Right.
You go up and you go right up and over. Fantastic views, stunning views. So that is, as you say, if someone wanted to do Skye and then even a section in the North Coast 500, because personally I would all recommend the western end of it.
Yeah, I think it's quite a good idea. I think if somebody could do that, they could go all the way up to Ullapool and then back down again to Inverness or something like that, if they didn't want to go all the way round the top.
I mean, I would recommend getting to Smoo Cave and then turning back.
Well, you try and do it as a circuit, to be honest with you.
North Coast 250 out and then 250 back.
I know, I don't want to drive the same section of road twice. There are some roads you can take that go right in the middle of the mainland back.
Oh, aye, there are options.
They are, very, very long and very, very remote. I don't think I've driven on them. I went to a particularly remote, I forget the name of it now, section. It wasn't far from Tain, and I went actually inland there to go and see Croik Church.
Right.
The weather was absolutely appalling, as was the theme of my North Coast 500. But no, it is very remote out there, no signal. That reminds me about mobile phones and navigation. So yes, while you do get 4G along the kind of the A9 corridor, heading all the way up to kind of Wick and John O'Groats and stuff like that, this starts to disappear as you go west of Thurso. And between Thurso and Ullapool, you're not getting data. You might do in some sections, but my girlfriend who's on 3, the Mobile Network 3, God bless her, she couldn't get anything. I had smidges of 3G and sometimes Edge and stuff like that.
What network are you?
I'm Vodafone.
Right, and you would have hoped that they would probably have had pretty good coverage.
Vodafone or EE are probably your good options for these sorts of things. So what I had done is I kind of pre-programmed the sat nav. I use Google Maps. With certain stops for anybody adding, because if you put North Coast 500 into Google Maps on the app, it's not going to take you along.
No,
the route, it'll go, oh, you want to go to Ullapool? Well, here you go via Timbuktu. It's not going to take. So I had to manually build the route to go in and try and. Although I didn't preload the maps as much as possible, but. Be careful if you're using Google Maps on the fly, because it won't be able to load all the stuff in your route. Make sure you do all this plotting and planning, add them as stops as you go around. So that's a tip. The other thing is an atlas. Use a road atlas. You're not driving in any urban environments, really, that you can do this really without sat-nav. It is well signed for the North Coast 500. There are signs around the entire route. So as long as you pay attention, you read road signs, you know how to read a map, you don't even need sat-nav.
I used Ordnance Survey Land Ranger when I did it. Because of the detail. Okay. It was pretty good detail. Yeah.
I just use the AA Road Atlas. Nice big print one.
But you're still using those AA Road Atlases. I thought we got you to shift over to A to Z.
A to Z's good for urban stuff, I think. But no, I like the AA.
Just to confirm, by the way, the A99 is a trunk road all the way to Wick, and it is in the Northwest Unit, maintained by Baird. So there we go. No, the white signs had put me off, because I was looking at it going, well, I don't work for Baird, so I'm not expected to know these things, but I do apologise if I made any derogatory remarks about the A99 anyway. It's a wonderful road. In fairness, I think I did see Baird a few times. They were doing some surfacing. I've seen their inspectors as well. The other thing I noticed, in fairness, was very good along all of it. Very little litter. Yeah, people a bit more respectful up there, I would
hope. I thought that was quite nice to see.
Certainly in the central belt, people act like pigs and just chuck things out the window and expect others to pick it up.
Not all of the people are like that, but yes, some people just chuck things out the window, and it's really disappointing. I honestly loved this trip, the North Coast 500.
So, just a question then for you. After Ullapool, did you use the 8835 back to Inverness?
No. I had to go down to Applecross. So
you came south
because I came south to Applecross and went. We half did, because, like I said, after we were done that, we cut back diagonally in a kind of like a northeast direction, and you do meet the A835 at Garve and go through. Very twisty road that is all the way back through. And then we went down through like Mill of Ord and Bewley and all those things.
And then back across Keswick Bridge, did you?
No. When you go through Mill of Ord and Bewley, you actually hug the coast just south of the Bewley Firth. And you get into Inverness that way.
From the west?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I was deep in Duncan McKnight territory, but I didn't get to see Duncan. Duncan was working, sadly, but Duncan has never been to Carski because it's so far away.
It's
so
disappointing.
I've got that over him.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, but
if he wants to work with us and things, he only needs to make more effort.
No, that's
okay.
good.
So you enjoyed it. That's the main thing.
I really, really did. Would I do it again? Yes, I
Mm-hmm.
would. Maybe what I'd change is the weather.
Yeah.
So I'd arrange for some better weather, and
Yeah.
I'd maybe get it in a slightly better vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, as you said, like a little 2-seater roadster
Oh,
so
yeah.
would be fantastic to do it in. As for caravanning and things, you might have to do a slightly different route.
Yeah.
Because some of those roads, particularly Applecross, are not suitable for caravans.
Well, I did it with a tent.
Oh, did you?
Yes, it was
All
campsites
right, okay.
for me all the way around, and it was half
You
dry,
poor
half
midge-bitten
wet.
thing.
It was pretty bad. It was July when I did it, and on the damp days in particular, the midges were horrific.
Yeah.
But I would do it again, and I think it's time I did do it again because it's been so many years. The only thing that puts me off, is, as you said, is the popularity of it in the summer now. I think that could be quite frustrating. So I might consider doing it off-season, either spring or autumn.
Yeah, I would do. Some people luck out. See, my boss, he done it a couple of years ago at the same time, early October, and he had heavenly weather because, of course, he had heavenly weather. My boss,
It's just your luck,
and then we ended up getting this horrible weather.
Yeah.
No, avoid midges, avoid tourists, and you'll be good.
Yeah. All
So,
right. Okay.
that's it.
Brilliant. It's good to hear about that.
Yeah,
John.
thank you for that. It's a different sort of podcast. It says what a tourist would. I don't think I've spoken much about. I haven't mentioned anything about semi-directional interchanges or.
I don't think there will be many of them. up
No,
there.
there's not. So I feel a bit off-brand here, but no, I hope you've all enjoyed hearing me rabbit on about it. If there's any questions about North Coast 500, please let me know.
Okay.
So
Well, on that note, I'm going to give a brief website update because we have been making some changes recently. So we're now in a position where, we have articles, routes, and galleries. They're the three main sections of our website. So the articles are the bits where we really take a deep dive into specific subjects like the Ferry Bypass or the Carski Bridge or that sort of thing. The routes basically are our Wikipedia section.
yeah,
Where we give the factual information on the various routes.
yeah, it's like Wikipedia, but better.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. You can believe it's better. So we have now rewritten nearly all of the motorway pages. The M80 is still to be done. So if you're looking for M8, M74, M890, M73, M77, all completely rewritten, full with new facts, figures, details, information, and crucially those downloadable route information histories, where we have researched the subject to absolute depth, and you will get the most minute detail in those downloads. So have a look at that. We're also putting up some of the opening brochures and things on some of them as well. We've recently added pages for the A roads of the A814 and also the A726.
Yeah.
They're there, and some of the gallery pages are in the process of being updated. There will be some new pages coming, so the M80 will be rewritten very shortly. We then have a page in preparation for the M90, for the M9, the A720.
We really are branching
and,
out.
and the M876. So there's a few other wiki type pages coming for these routes as well that we're working on with Duncan and yourself and others. So they're all coming along. Calendar. By the time this podcast goes out, the calendar will be more or less ready for sale, if not already. Same price as last year, $9.99, 12 stunning images from across Glasgow. Some
We had
really,
to make
really
some
good ones
last
in there.
minute changes because if it was up to me, it was going to be 12 images of Erskine Bridge.
Yeah, I know.
And you've managed to cut that down to only 10 images
I
of
know.
Erskine
It was
Bridge.
almost an Erskine Bridge calendar 2022. We've managed to find 12 very, very, very good images of Scotland, of Glasgow, and include them in there. So
Don't worry, there's plenty of Glasgow ones, people. Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, it's mostly all Glasgow, of course. So, but a variety of routes, crucially.
yes.
Some really good Clydeside Expressway.
Oh, yes, I know. I've seen them. I've seen the latest edit.
Yep. So people will enjoy that. So yeah, you know that your purchases of those calendars really support us, help us going.
They do.
Every image, bar one, in the calendar next year has been scanned as a result of people buying things in the past that has enabled us to buy the equipment and the software to let us scan the material that the images were part of.
Absolutely. Or in terms of some of the supply chain we've used ourselves to get things scanned in that we just couldn't scan. Particularly some negatives and large maps and things like that.
Exactly.
So it's cool. It's
exactly. So yeah, I hope a few people will pick up one of those. We appreciate your support on that. And likewise, the booklets are still available. We've got Kingston Bridge, Erskine Bridge. Still a few Erskine badges left, not many, a few. And there's one or two other bits and bobs.
What a
coming
great
up as
present or stocking villa that could be.
I know, well, that's it.
I mean, if you're like us, you're going to be doing your Christmas shopping just on Christmas Eve. Pick something like this up.
Plenty of people out there like having obscure pin badges on their bag or something like that. You know, like Nick, for example, he loves wearing his obscure badges on his uniform and stuff. So you know, it's
Nick's boss will be listening to this. What?
Sorry.
Next time he's at parade, he'll be in trouble.
Yeah. So by all means.
Okay.
Last thing from me. So next month
Yep.
is of course the Christmas special. Imagine saying that. I mean, we're sitting here, it's still very mild outside.
Still very mild, a bit damp, but yeah.
I know. Yeah. So a month from now, it'll be Christmas special
It will
time,
be.
and Nick is actually joining us for that again.
It's good to get
it's
the old band back
become
together.
tradition now. So he'll be here, and he'll be here in the flesh, unlike last year where he was remotely joining us via some software that caused us all sorts of grief. But he'll actually be here with us for that.
Great.
And of course, thanks to our usual supporters as well, Eastford Excavations and HBS Scotland.
Yes,
as well.
Thank you very much. Onwards and upwards. As always, check us out on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter for all the stuff we are sharing, the news and things that come up, and especially at the moment because I'm on it. We're doing it for the last week
sure,
and
Tom.
the one ahead. So there's again some new images that are on there. So check us out on all the usual channels. The podcast itself, you can find this everywhere it's normally found. You listen to it on Spotify, you listen to it on Apple Music, Podbean,
Google.
you can just Google it, and
just Google.
anywhere it comes up now. So
Because it's pretty much on every platform. It's on Amazon now as well, I think. So yeah, you'll get it on there. Remember to leave us a review. Good way to spread the word.
Yep.
You know, and tell your friends, tell your colleagues that you listen to us. Tell us we're not all mad, and it's actually quite enjoyable to listen to.
Especially this podcast. This was quite a normal one, isn't it? This is like North Coast 500, you know. So
Yep. And we'll be back, as I say, next month with the Christmas special. So thank you again for listening, and we'll see you then.
thank you very much. Bye bye.